Caro and Lloydie, isn't it amazing, the AFL, they love to bring in a rule and then immediately water it down and then come back with a sledgehammer and hit a thumbtack with a sledgehammer. You ever look at, over the years, the salary cap? They have the salary cap, then they want to bring in COLA, and then they want to bring in third-party deals and all these other things. Some clubs can only have 92.3 of the salary cap. Completely becomes a balls up. Then you have a situation where we'll have a draft. It'll be fair for everybody, unless you've got a kid who's played 100, his father's played 100 games, or his father's from Ethiopia, or you've got your own scenario where you've got your own, what do you call them?
Or the radius of Brisbane, 50 kilometres, 100 kilometres.
And the academy. So why not just... So finally the AFL have come out and said, do not dispute the umpire's rule. Thoughts, quickly off the top?
How far we've come, first, Ed. I hate soccer, the way they attack umpires. It's actually unnerving watching the game. I saw some of the stuff, I'd forgotten how aggressive they were back in the 80s and that type of thing. I'm with Jack Riewoldt. I think the intentions of the rule were good, but I think it's gone way too far. And the emotion of some players, and it's an emotional game, and I think I think that, to me, is taken it way too far.
I like the principle.
Yeah.
But exasperation's not really disrespect.
Caro, how do we get here?
Well, let's not forget what happened and why umpires became a top order priority for Gillon McLachlan last year. We'll start with Jason McCartney, the footy boss of GWS, who copped a $20,000 fine for an unleashing on umpires at half-time in a GWS game last year. Mitch Robinson, the previous year, had that famous mouthguard throwing incident, and that was at the end of towards the end of 2020. And then Robinson again in 2021, serious incident of umpiring dissent, which we absolutely saw. This led, the final straw, of course, was Toby Green in that elimination final in Tasmania against Sydney with Matt Stevic. The AFL had two goes at Toby Green. Eventually he got a 6-week suspension, and Toby Green's ironically back this weekend. But there's an umpiring crisis in the game. Yeah. We're about to go to an 18-team women's competition as well. Women are not coming through in the numbers they hoped in terms of umpires, and we're still seeing security guards at junior footy lead umpires onto the ground. So there is a method in the AFL's madness, and I'm a bit sick of players standing around, and I'm not blaming James Sicily, but I think Sicily was the latest one, saying, I don't know what's going on, I don't understand. We've got a divide between the umpires. Older umpires are clearly being a bit more lenient because it's not bothering them so much. Younger umpires are towing the line.
And that's what happened overnight. The umpires from the AFL, the umpires boss, went down and said, everybody from now on, all in together. We are calling this from here on in. I know you guys, the older guys, you're not that worried about it. You are now, because we're telling you that's your job. From now on, 50 metres, no compromise whatsoever.
Who's that, Brad Scott or Dan Richards?
Both.
Do you think that's right, Ed, or should they have said verbal like Mitch Robinson, aggressive, that's a 50, or that's no longer a 50-metre penalty?
We'll get to the ins and outs of it because it's changed. And here's a perfect example of how it's changed. Here's how the AFL, with an award-winning advertising campaign, used to promote the game.
These guys spit the dummy at the umpire and get away with it? I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I've seen Australian rules. What rules?
And there's the man who's in charge of it all, Scotty, who's learned from his past indiscretions. There's the Twins. And, of course, as a coach, everyone's blowing up at the umpiring decisions. But to your point, though, Caro, there does come a time, and whether it's gone too far or not, the lack of example being shown on the field has gone too far. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, we all felt a bit uncomfortable about the arms being raised. And, you know, in the same game where Tom Hawkins admitted he staged and got a goal out of it and doesn't get suspended. So there's a lot of anomalies that are worrying people at the moment. But I think they're on the right track. I think they had to over-address and overcorrect.
They need to be fierce on officials, like the McCartney incident, I really don't like, and coaches. Players, we know there's always outliers like the Burke in that Army Reserve Cup game.
Yeah.
So, but we're losing the emotion out of the game. What we're giving up to get something, there's always a cost and a price, and you've got to ask, is it worth it? And in time we'll know. In time we'll know.
Ross, it was
And I'm a
it was
huge
wonderful
umpire
game
supporter.
on Monday. I mean,
Yeah.
my biggest take out of that game was not a few free kicks or 50s paid for umpire dissent.
No,
it was an
theoretically-
absolute cracker of a contest.
It was an incredible game. Theoretically, as an ex-coach, you're saying to your players, next moment. So that decision's happened. They should be not looking at that. It should be what's next. But the emotional piece is obviously hard to control. 60 days to create a habit. We're about to find out how long for AFL players.
I've got a couple of solutions I'm going to put up in a moment. But, Lloydie, what about the officials? So we saw the coaches there going off. Do they have to now toe the line a bit as well?
Well, if they stick to the rules, Ed, they will. So everyone's on notice here. So let's take a look at that rule. A field umpire shall award a free kick against a player or official who use abusive, insulting, threatening or obscene language towards an umpire, behaves in an abusive, insulting, threatening or obscene manner towards an umpire, disputes the decision of an umpire. Let's take a look at this. Here's some vision from some coaches. So this could be towards a player or it could be towards an umpire, but it's going to be a brave umpire who penalise the coach or a trainer or a runner, because they're all on notice now,
there'll
Ross.
be a riot.
There will be.
There would be a riot.
But it's the rule now, so let's see what they do, Ed.